In this final video of the series, we wrap everything up. We're going to add our index.mjml file to our zip file resource. We're going to extract the data from that file resource to put into our response, along with some headers so that we can download it directly to our computer. From there, we're going to head into Loops, our newsletter email program, and upload that zip file so that we can send our dynamic email newsletter to our entire list. So we have our zip file with all of our images collected now. Our last one was for the profile section in this particular newsletter, but anywhere that we've got images that we need to collect, whether it be static or dynamic, we now have them in our zip folder. And the last thing that we need to put into the zip folder is we actually need just that MJML file. So let's do that. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to want to actually create a file resource. So we're going to zip, actually not zip, it's create a file resource, because we want a file resource from our MJML file. So what we're going to do is we are going to name our file resource. So we want it to be called index.mjml. So this is actually where we're specifying, because if you remember, we changed it in our folders to HTML. This is really the only place that matters, is we are now giving it specifically the extension of MJML. And the file data that we're going to be creating it with is our MJML full. So our fully compiled text file, we're going to be making it into this MJML file, and we are going to return this as MJML compiled. You can call it whatever you want, but that is what I'm calling it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to add this file resource into our zip. So again, zip, add file resource, and what we're going to add is the MJML compiled. We want to make sure it's index MJML, and we're going to put it into our zip folder. And we're leaving our encryption as it is, because this particular thing we're controlling, we want to be able to just download the zip file, in this case in Windows. So let's pull our stop and debug down again. These super handy things. And also our view contents. So if we run this again, we have all of our images, and we also have our index.mjml. So we should just be able to, download this now, right? Well, not exactly. So this is a great place to interject, and we're going to interject about file types here, because I went through this process and I'm having to redo some of this, because when I went to send the email, certain file types were not being sent properly. And with email, there's no guarantee that somebody is going to have images turned on or any of those things, but you don't want to send file types that can't be emailed properly. So there is this handy caniemail.com. Again, shout out to Corsetti Dev, who brought this to my attention. I ended up figuring out that the reason that things weren't working for the two static images was because they were using SVGs. And as you can see, Patrick, who is using Apple Mail, can see SVGs and no one else can. So we changed it, and I have changed those SVGs to PNGs. And with email right now, it's a good idea to stick to particular formats. WebP, as you see, is accepted in some cases, or it's the format's changed automatically and so there's about 97%. So it's a fairly safe one to use, unless you're using, I guess, Windows Mail older. But so that's kind of just a note that I'm going to insert here, is that we want to make sure that the file types you're sending are going to be viewable in people's email. There is a good video that Xano has about dealing with zip files, and I highly recommend watching it. But the piece that I was missing was that it sounded like a step wasn't necessary, and it absolutely is necessary in order for this to work. It's not just about viewing the file resource, it's about being able to send that. And so the important part that we need to do here is we have to get the data from the file resource. So now that we have the all of our stuff in our zip file, we need to get the file resource data so that we can send it. And what we want to do is we're getting the resource data from our zip, and we're going to return as zip file. And this is also where we're going to make sure our response, so what we want our response to be is we want our response to be zip file dot data. We want the data in the zip file. So now that we've done that, now we can set up our HTTP headers to be able to download. So that is what we're going to do here. We've got it. We're now going to download the response. And so the first one we're going to do is we're going to set our header. And our first header is going to be our content type. So content type application / zip. So we're telling it that it's a zip file. And we have a second header. And this header is content disposition. Let's just put this in here. Content disposition, attachment, and then the file name. And we're giving this the file name newsletter.zip. Let's just save that. So now when we run this, be sure we've got any stop and debugs turned off. I think they're all at the bottom here, so we should be fine. Let's give this a run. It's taking a few seconds. And we now have a successful download button that we're going to be able to use. So now when we hit download, we can open up our newsletter.zip. We can see that we have our index MJML file, and we have our images, and all of our images are here in our image folder. And so the file structure is exactly how we need in our zip. So now what we need to be doing is we need to upload to our newsletter sending program. In this case, I'm using Loops. I really like it. You can check it out at loops.so. I'll leave the link in the description. And so let me log in real quick, and then we can see how this last step works. So here we are in Loops, and I am just going to set up a test email newsletter. So let's just go here. We're going to give this a newsletter demo. test for my subject line. And then we're going to upload our custom email. So right here, we just select our zip file. So we'll go to our newsletter. And we're going to upload our file here. And you can see that we have all of our information here. You can't see any of the images, that's fine. This is just the way that it looks, so don't let that throw you. And then we're going to send it to our list. So I'm just sending it as a test to myself. So we've got this here. When you can choose whatever segments and all that normal stuff that you can do with the newsletter. But so we're just doing a test here. So let's just test this. I'm going to send this right now. Again, we get a bit of an email preview. Don't need to really worry about that because it's all being done for us, and we're just kind of hitting send again, and it has a time send, so you can always cancel it, but let's just send it right now. And so we can see here in our email, here is our newsletter with all of the images all sent out to our list. So as a quick recap, we basically took this CMS collection, which is creating this newsletter, designed however we like in Webflow. That is entirely up to you. And we created, using a function in Xano and loops, we created this email. So that instead of something that is taking a lot of copying and pasting all of this information into, say, a Figma document every week or every couple weeks, however often you're sending your newsletter, you can pull information that you already have in an existing CMS or database, and you can create a dynamic email system, which will save you hours and every week.